She's wise, she's lived an incredible life, and she's got quite a story that she's going to share with you tonight, one of many stories that she has. Please welcome Barbara Parkos.
Wow, can I really follow that introduction? Don't be alarmed by the papers. I got called last minute, so I did write some notes, but I'll try not to bore you with them. I was reminded that maybe I should talk about quarantine. I know a little something about quarantine. So I looked it up in the dictionary to see what exactly did Webster say about quarantine, and I found it. It said, to isolate a person so that the infectious disease is not spread to others. Wow, that's a bit of my life and a real lively bit of my story. When I was 13 years old, that was about 67 years ago, really long time. I was in school at the time, ran into the laboratory before class started, and I said, "Who's got lipstick? Who's got lipstick?" And one of the girls, my friend, said, "Barbara, I have some. It's your favorite. You love to borrow it. It's called Tangy by Revlon." I'm not sure any of you remember that, but it was a very popular lipstick back then, and it really was shiny. So I borrowed it, and I borrowed it, and I borrowed it. And it was the worst thing I ever could have done. A few months later, at a basketball game, I started coughing really, really hard. And after I coughed, I spit up blood, and I was rushed to the emergency room at Newport Hospital. My mother and father were on their first vacation in 25 years. They were in Florida. Our doctor, Dr. Charles Serps, whom I adored then, and I adore the memory I have of him now. He called my parents immediately and said, "I've just taken a lung x-ray, and Barbara has tuberculosis." I didn't even know what that was. Come to find out, it was the most highly contagious illness at that time. This was in the early 50s. My parents came home right away, came to the hospital, walked in when they shouldn't have, because the doctors and nurses treating me were covered up in gowns, face shields. If you think you've seen something with this pandemic, you ain't seen nothing like that. My father and mother rushed in, and I didn't know what was wrong. I said, "What am I doing? Where am I going?" And they said, "You have to go away for a little while. You have a very, very bad sickness." So they came with me, and Dr. Serps drove us to a place far away, about 2 hours from here, and it was called Zambarano Institute, and it was a sanatorium for tuberculosis patients. I said, "How long will I be there, Dr. Serps? I have to get home. I'm a cheerleader. I'm editor of the school paper, so I've got to get home and I've got to go to school." And he said, "Barbara, you'll only be there for a couple of weeks." They didn't want to frighten me, so they told me it would be a couple of weeks. As I was being examined by the head physician there, Dr. O'Brien, after he examined me, he went behind the curtain and thought he was whispering to my mother and father and said, Barbara's tuberculosis is quite bad. She's going to be here for a minimum of 2 years. And when I heard that, I jumped up from the gurney. I started running. I said, I'm not going to be here. I can't be here. I'm not staying. I have to get back. After my parents left, Dr. O'Brien came into the hospital room that I was going to be sharing by another teenager named Clara. Clara and I became like sisters. We were so very close. We couldn't get to sleep without stretching over on a little chair that was between our beds and holding hands to get each other to go to sleep. I was screaming and crying and yelling, and they called for Dr. O'Brien. Dr. O'Brien came in, tried to calm me, and as he was trying to get me to stop screaming, he said, Barbara, you don't have your ears pierced. And I said, no, sir, I can't because my parents won't let me do it till I'm 16. And he said to me in a whisper, can you keep a secret? I said, yes. And he said, I'm gonna pierce your ears today. I said, you are? It made me stop crying. It made me stop screaming. He said, I'll be right back. And he came right back with this needle and some alcohol, and he pierced my ears. And boy, was I happy. I forgot that I was sick. I forgot where I was. All I knew is that I finally had something I was dreaming about. I had my ears pierced. It was quite a thrill. I stayed in that hospital for a very long time. 2 years when you're 13, getting out when you're 15 was really difficult. It had a pain inside of me that probably has never left. But at that time, I kept thinking about my pierced ears. And I was taught something in that moment with Dr. O'Brien. Whenever there's something that seems so tragic, so horrible, and so what you're never gonna go through, you do it. You do it. And I did it because I got a positive attitude. I said, I've had the worst of it. The best of it was getting my ears pierced. And I made it. I got through it. And it took me on a journey in my very adventurous life to be positive about all things. And during this horrific pandemic that we're going through, some of us get a little depressed. Some of us don't know where to turn. Restaurants have closed. Some of us have lost jobs. It's been really, really hard. It's been 7 months of difficulty and pain for a lot of people. If you can hang on the way I hung on for those 2 years as a teenager, thinking it's going to get better. It is going to get better. And I can tell you from my experiences then, this pandemic will end. I do see a light at the end of the tunnel. I really and honestly want you to believe that. I know I didn't look at these notes, but I do want to see one thing on it. I just want to make sure I remember it. A lot of people have been home more than usual, been with their families more than usual. Isn't that a wonderful thing? Sometimes when we're working and busy and involved and controlling other people, we forget about how much love we have around us. And it's always love that's the winner, every single time. During a pandemic, during an illness, during life. I will end this because we are told, or we're told, we have 10 minutes. I've never talked for just 10 minutes. So this is the biggest challenge I've ever faced. I want to end this quickly, but with something very, very meaningful to me. I sat last night and I wrote it, and I thought, I'm going to share it with all of you. When you are joyful, when you say yes to life, when you have fun and you project positivity all around you, you become a sun in the center of every constellation. And guess what? People always want to be warm around the sun. Thank you so much for listening to me.